Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a look at Pheromosa and Buzzwole. It's gone and done a win over in Japan. And if I'm looking at this correctly, and I believe I am, every single card in the list is legal in our format. So although this is technically a Japanese list, and although this features cards in the Japanese language, make no mistake about it, this is a deck that you can go and play right this second. Every single card is tournament legal over here. Cool! But it's all based around Buzzwole and Pheromosa. Now, our first reaction when we look at Buzzwole and Pheromosa is, well, hang on a second. Fire decks like Reshiram and Charizard and Blacephalon, they're pretty good. And then we go, well, Lucario and Melmetal can cope. But then we go, well, they've got Metal Frying Pan, so that helps. But actually, Reshiram and Charizard is not the same deck it was a little while ago. And even Mewtwo and Mew decks, they play Welder for energy acceleration, but they have tended to drop Reshiram and Charizard lately. So it's actually not the weakness it used to be. Although as a side note, right, we got one weakness guard energy. You may wish to pop in extra. Outside of that, you are in a lot of trouble. But anyway, Pheromosa and Buzzwole, what does it actually do? Why are we a little bit excited? Well, the first attack for a single grass energy does 30 damage to the active Pokemon and 30 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Cool. Seems kind of familiar. Seems kind of familiar for Buzzwole, to be honest. It's literally Jet Punch. Like, it's even called Jet Punch. Okay, so that's pretty gosh darn good. Nice to soften people up. We've then got 2 grass, 1 colourless, 190 damage. And then during your next turn, this attack's base damage is 60, but considering we've had a bunch of Pokemon in the past, like the aforementioned Buzzwole, that literally couldn't attack next turn, I really don't think we're going to be particularly upset. I don't think it's much of a problem. We then, for 1 grass energy, have Beast Game GX. 50 damage, but if your opponent is knocked out by damage from this attack, you take 1 more prize card. If you've got 8 energy on, 1 needs to be grass, the other 7 can be whatever you like, you take 3 prize cards instead. 3 more. So knocking out a single prize Pokemon, knocking out something like a Ditto Prism Star, which has less than 50 HP incidentally, would net you 4 prizes. Is it likely you're going to pull it off? No! Obviously it's not likely. But it's an Ultra Beast deck. You're playing Beast Ring. Is it possible you could have a really good turn where you play 3 or 4 Beast Ring and actually get the 8 energy on? Yes. Absolutely it is. Not something we're relying on, not something we think is definitely going to happen, but definitely something we're looking at as a late game or mid game potential if your cards fall right. And in terms of Pokemon, that is literally it. We're playing 4 Pheromosa and Buzzwole, and Quad Buzzmosa used to be a thing. It's not been for a little while, but it used to be a thing. Could it be back? Well, according to this list, absolutely, because it's going and winning over in Japan right now. So how does it work? Well, largely, you're just chilling, spreading damage around in the early game. The second your opponent takes a KO, they have to be down to 3 prizes remaining, unless they're playing around with something that takes extra prize cards, like Buzzwole and Pheromosa, but let's not worry about that. Interestingly enough, if you do KO a tag team with the GX attack, you do win the game instantly. It's difficult to pull off, but then again, hit for 190, and then hit for 50, that'll take down a Pikachu and Zekrom. And we do have ways to do extra damage, more on that in a moment. And then once your opponent's taken 1 prize, Beast Ring's in, you're off. Okay, cool. Now in terms of energy, it's largely grass energy, but we need beast energy here, because it lets you do an extra 30 damage. And again, if you can 2-hit KO a tag team using Elegant Soul and Beast Game GX, you win the game. So it's pretty important that we have stuff like Beast Energy, because that means that 2 hits go from 240 to 270, for instance, which is a Reshiram and Charizard, or a Mewtwo and Mew. Absolute crucial key number. Difference between, well, anything and 270, pretty huge. 240 will get Pikachu and Zekrom, 270 will get most tag teams. I mean, you will occasionally hit for weakness, but you're talking stuff like Slowpoke and Psyduck, nothing you're going to be hugely excited about. And we, of course, play 1 Weakness Guard energy here, because your weakness is crippling, so maybe you find it at the right time and it's quite good. It could work. Now, in terms of supporters here, we've got some weird ones. We play Lusamine Prism Star. Now, this is another wonderful, wonderful option, because you can only play this card if your opponent has exactly 3 prize cards remaining. And it makes your Ultra Beast immune to attacks, or at least damage. Other effects go through, damage doesn't, during your opponent's next turn. But remember, we are only playing Tag Team GXs, which means that the second your opponent takes a KO, all of a sudden, your opponent has 3 prize cards remaining, and you will get a turn of invulnerability. Do you see where we're starting to go with this? Yes, it looks kind of awkward, but between the Weakness Guard energy and the Lusamine, you've got quite a lot of protection. With B-String, you've got the potential for a redonkulous turn, and all of a sudden, things are starting to turn around. Also, as a side note, Beast Energy on the first attack will mean you're doing 60 damage, which is enough to KO Pokemon like Inkay, for instance, or indeed Ditto Prism Star, that are seeing a fair amount of play, so that is something to bear in mind. Now, we also see Ultra Forest Cart Envoy here, and this is brilliant. Because what it essentially does is it allows your Ultra Beast to go through any effects on the defending Pokemon. And this is here for a bunch of reasons, but Keldeo GX is very much one of them. Keldeo GX, you just have no answer, because it can't be hurt by GXs, including tag teams. This lets you go through that. Oh yeah, and you're then hitting for weakness. That sounds pretty gosh darn good to me. To put it in context, right, the first attack with a Beast Energy will do 120, then the GX attack for a single energy will do 100. Oh look, you're taking 3 prizes off a Keldeo. That seems nice. Now, we are playing Lieutenant Surge's strategy because of the whole we're playing lots of supporters thing, and we are playing a copy of Coach Trainer here, which actually becomes a really good option in this deck, because you draw 4 if your active is a tag team, and you only play tag team, so your active has to be a tag team unless you've lost the game. Now, we do play 1 copy of Faber here to counter stadiums and special energy and all of that good stuff, and tools. So frankly, this is a nice counter supporter. It counters a lot of good stuff. And we're playing a bunch of tag teams here, which you should be expecting at this stage. Tag teams are absolutely everywhere. We've got Mallow and Lana. Mallow and Lana, great, because it's a switch that also heals 120 damage. And bearing in mind, with only tag teams, you're giving up 3 prizes for every KO. You want to avoid every KO you possibly can. We've got Cynthia and Caitlin, which lets you recover a supporter from the discard pile, and we're playing a bunch of one-offs, while also drawing 3 cards, so that's kind of nice. And then we've also got Guzma and Hala. Guzma and Hala is another one of those that's just seeing a huge amount of play. Lets you search for a stadium, we'll get to those in a minute. But you can also, if you discard 2 other cards, remember all the tag team supporters, for the second effect, you need to discard cards from your hand. You search for a tool and a special energy. So it gets your Weakness Guard energy or your Beast energy at the absolute perfect time. That's pretty gosh darned important. Now, in terms of Stadium, we have 2 copies of Power Plant to turn off GX abilities like, for instance, Keldeo, but also stuff like Dedenne. You are not using any abilities here, so why not take advantage of your opponent's abilities by shutting them off and slowing them down, because they are relying. And I should mention Green's Exploration here. We're playing a full 4 of. It is our main supporter here. Search for any 2 trainer cards if you have no abilities in play. We're not playing any abilities, so you're definitely going to be able to use this whenever you want. It's a fairly standard thing at the moment. If you're playing a deck that doesn't use abilities, you're probably playing Green's Exploration. It's pretty gosh darn good. And to circle back to stadiums, we are playing one Life Forest Prism Star here. It lets you heal 60 damage in all special conditions. When you combine that with stuff like Mallow and Lana, Lusamine, Weakness Guard Energy, we are doing everything we can here to try and keep our Pokemon on the field. And there's even a couple copies of Great Potion here that heals 50 from your active GX. This deck really wants to stay alive. And I'll give you one more example, Choice Helmet, which can be searched out with Guzma and Haller incidentally. Means you take 30 less damage from GX and EX attacks. Again, it's all about keeping you alive. Speaking of tools, we also play one copy of Beastite here, which lets you do an extra 10 damage for every prize card that you have taken. So again, it's comboing up there with Beast Energy quite nicely, just trying to make sure that you're doing that little bit of extra damage so that you can get the KOs, especially when you use a GX attack, so that you can be taking extra prizes. And there is one copy of Island Challenge Amulet. It reduces your maximum HP by 100, which is bad, but it means you give up one less prize when KO'd by damage from an opponent's attack, which is good. But remember the maths here, you got 260 HP. So Island Challenge Amulet puts you down to 160 HP. But if your opponent KOs a full tag team, they take 3 prizes, 3 left. They KO a tag team with Island Challenge Amulet, they've taken 5 prizes, 1 left, but all there is tag teams. If they KO one tag team, they need to KO a tag team to win. If they KO a tag team and a tag team with Island Challenge Amulet, they need to KO a tag team to win. It's a way of forcing your opponent into taking an extra 160 HP KO. That's pretty fantastic. In terms of Pokemon search, we are loving it here, because you're a basic grass Pokemon. So you've got Netball, which will search out all 4 of your Pokemon, or any 4 of your Pokemon. As a side note here, you can also search out your basic grass energy, which is lovely. We also play 3 copies of Tag Call. Tag Call will also search out your Tag Team GXs, which are the only ones you're playing here, lets you get 2 of them. But it's 2 in any combination of tag team Pokemon and supporters, so it will also search out your tag team supporters. Now this is a deck where you need to take the right prizes at the right times, because of the GX attack, because you are limited in your attacking options, because you're only playing the one Pokemon. So we are playing a full 4 custom catcher here, and we're playing Great Catcher as well. Plus Great Catcher gives you guaranteed gusting on a GX as just a 1-card option. That is crucial, again, when you're using your GX attack to try and take extra prizes. As a fun little side note here, because you're playing Green's Exploration, you can search out 2 custom catcher at once. And then we're playing 4 copies of Acrobike for a little bit of extra consistency. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand, discard the other. 2 copies of Reset Stamp, especially good because you're going to mulligan a lot. So if you mulligan like 4 or 5 times, but you can then Reset Stamp your opponent turn 1, going first, it will mitigate the advantage they get. If you go second, there will be games your opponent starts with like a 7, 8, 9 card advantage. That's going to hurt some games. That is a downside. 2 copies of Pokegear 3.0 to try and make sure you've got the right supporter at the right time. And of course, B-String. We mentioned it quite a lot earlier. We don't need to go through it again, but it's an integral part of the deck. This is a longer deck profile than we usually do, but the reason is there's so many more tricks. You're only playing one Pokemon, but you've got so many options then because you're playing so many trainers and all kinds of other cool stuff that it really is quite lovely to be able to do all of this. And there's nothing to say you can't switch this around a bit and play some other trainers, some other tricks. I adore this deck. I'm hopefully going to get back to doing some testing on PTCGO, streaming, recording, all of that. So this is going to be one of those decks I'm trying out rather soon. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know what you think of the deck. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/TheWassy. patreon.com/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would you? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.